I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, I was feeling like I got hit by a Mack truck. I've always been, active. I'm an ex-Division I athlete, but it hit me hard, and my husband was worried. And you could see my TPO. Most of us know what that is. We've all had that run. That is our antibody test for Hashi's. Mine was 822. Like, I was severely inflamed, and I was already trying to eat well and exercise, but obviously my body could not keep up. I learned about activation through a similar way that we're here right now. And I knew it was an option. I had nothing to lose, and I had to do it. And as you can see, I circled the little numbers. I went from 822 after activation to 91 in 3 months. I told my husband, I don't know what is going on, but this is working, and nothing has worked. I started to finally lose some of the flare-ups, the migraines, the sore feet, the brain fog, the weight gain. I mean, I lost 15 pounds in 90 days just from activation. And then my numbers start to go down. And at the very bottom, it's kind of cut off, but right now my antibody levels are at 12. So anything under 30 is considered, is not considered a positive result. So technically it's dormant, and my C-reactive protein is at 1. And I'm sure most of you have also had that test run, because that definitely is the level of our inflammation in our body. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I wanted to show you this real fast. This is my before and after picture. And you guys, when I get emotional when I think about it, but that lady on the left was in pain and wasn't a good mom to those children on the other side. I was always hurting, and nobody understood. People cared, but it wasn't until my dear friend Angie told me about this. And you guys, I got my life back. And those kids over there are my and my dog, of course, my dog, Angel, but just to be a better mom and to be present and to not be in pain all of the time. Because when I got this diagnosis, I really thought that was it. Like, oh my gosh, I am going to be hurting constantly. And the doctors are going to be giving me medicine to Band-Aid fix and just kind of let me live how it's going to be. And thankfully, my angel, Angie, told me, and I listened, and it was an option. And today I feel so much better. And I just want to share that with you tonight, because, we all have families. Maybe we have kids or husbands that have this, but we just want to feel better. Dr. Nancy Bryan, she's an angel as well. I remember sitting on the couch with her in Arizona, and we're talking about activation. And she just gave me peace. She's, look at her credentials. She's a doctor of pharmacy, master's in molecular biology. I mean, you guys can read it. That is who is going to be presenting for us tonight and giving us the information that is just like I said, it's an option that a lot of us don't know about, because we are, changing lives. And I just want to share that with you. So I am going to stop my share and have Dr. Nancy jump on, and we're all going to, I'm going to put her on speaker view. And Dr. Nancy, I'm going to go ahead. Can you unmute yourself?
I think I'm unmuted.
Yeah, there you are. There you are. Welcome.
Oh gosh, I'm so humbled and honored to be here. I can tell you that what this group in particular is really holds a special place in my heart. And you're going to find out why, because a big part of who I am has to do with more my master's in molecular biochemistry than my pharmacy degree. Although I am a licensed pharmacist in 12 states, and I won't go into all that background, the bottom line is my passion has been about balancing the chemistry in a cell since I started school. And it is so relevant with what we're talking about today, more so almost than any other disease state, if you will, or breakdown of the body, if you will. So just a quick background on my part. I grew up in a crazy family in Michigan, and just always from time I was little was going to be doing something that made a difference to people. That's just who I was. had a family full of diabetes that were affected by that. And it was something that drove me. Because of that, I ended up getting my master's in molecular biochemistry. I ended up with my pharmacy degree, went to work for a pharmaceutical company. That was my first job, not going into pharmacies and dispensing, but actually working for a pharmaceutical company. And I was actually the first female sales rep for Eli Lilly and Company, which is in Indianapolis, which is a very large pharmaceutical company. I learned so much from that company. And there's the biggest thing that I like to bring out to people is there is a time and place for certain medications. It's just in today's world, what's happened is medications have taken over our entire medical industry. And what we want to talk to you about today, in particular with what goes on with Hashimoto's, is the fact that it's really expressions of what's happened to the body when the chemistry is not balanced. And there's nothing that is affected more by that than the thyroid, because the thyroid is the master, if you will, of all the hormonal things that happen that keep everything else in check in our body. And so just know and understand that this is something I've been very, very passionate about for a very long time. And because of that, when she asked me to speak, I apologize. I'm in Versailles, Kentucky right now. I just finished doing a meeting and I was like, okay, I know I can fit this in. So I had to scoot them all outside and it's like 90 something outside. So I apologize for that. But I just want to give you my background about how passionate I am about this, because you know what? It has a profound effect on your body in so many different ways. And it's one of the things that I think if we can help people to understand that there's hope, and that there's actually something that we can do to make a profound difference in bringing back that balance in chemistry. As time goes on, what you're going to find is what you're going to start seeing what we do be very relevant to what's going on with thyroid. And at the end of this, I do want you to know that there's a study that was put out in 2020 that was in regard to exactly what our product does. It's exactly on our NRF2 pathway and our KEEP1 pathway. And I won't bore you with all that heavy science right at the moment, but when I'm done, for those of you that are interested in that study, I would love to be able to get your hands on this, because I think that it would be very helpful for any of you that are seeing physicians and practitioners, because when they read this and see this, they'll understand it at a different level. And that's why I do what I do today, is to help make an impact with enough people that we can help our medical system start to look at things a little differently. So that's number one for me. So I just wanted you to have that background. So having said that, Katrina, why don't you, if you will, if there's a few questions in particular that you would like me to go over or discuss to begin with, we can just get started.
Yeah, no, I really want you to cover the activation piece and the pathways. Like, how is it getting our inflammation down? Because inflammation is the root and cause of all of this. And we can stop the Band-Aid fixing by activating the pathways. So if you can just tell us a little bit about that, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely. All right. So first and foremost, you need to understand how incredibly special our thyroid gland is. It does a few things that nothing else does. And I mean, it's amazing. Our bodies have such unique abilities. But what separates the thyroid gland from so many other things is there's lots of other functioning glands in our body and systems in our body. And what happens is they do their activity, the things that happen. And as a result of what happens over time, but regardless of what the cells are, over time, we have our cells start breaking down and not doing the things they're supposed to. And there's something called our NRF2 pathway that is designed specifically that as our body is functioning well, that pathway turns on, and in so doing takes out all of the trash, if you will, out of that cell. And there's another pathway that actually deals with the reason the trash starts building up, and that's we have mitochondria in our cell. They're like the engine, and that does all the work, and it takes food and oxygen, and it gives the cell, no matter what it is, its energy to do the work it's supposed to do. Okay, but it has a byproduct, and that byproduct is an oxygen that's uncoupled now. It's not O2 anymore. We all know O2 is oxygen, right? What we breathe. Now it's O, and that's what's called a free radical. It's kind of bouncing around inside every cell. Every cell has this happen, and every cell is designed to have a pathway that will turn on this NRF2, and when it does that, it neutralizes it. Okay, it turns on a bunch of things and signals a bunch of things, and as a result of it, when that happens, it neutralizes that, and that's taking out the trash. Okay, so that's what a free radical is. And when the NRF2 pathway turns on and takes it out, it's removing that. If it doesn't, and as we get older and our body stops doing that, all of that starts building up. That's called oxidative stress. And oxidative stress basically is the root cause to many disease systems. But the thyroid in particular is very, very, very affected by this because it has a very special relationship with oxidative stress. It's one of the few things that it goes through that process I just told you about, but it also does something that all the other things don't do. And that is that it creates sometimes more purposefully. So if you think about it as a yin and a yang, think about it as it has the ability when it's functioning normally to operate this reactive oxygen species, this thing that's out there. And then it's supposed to turn on and neutralize it. But what actually activates the hormones of the thyroid is letting there be oxidative stress building up. That's not how other organs work. And so because that happens, a lot of different things happen to the thyroid. And that's why so many people go, well, how come there's Hashimoto's? But what about people, there's people that have hypothyroid or Hashimoto's and how that's expressed. But there's also people that have hyperthyroid.
Right. There's a lot of questions about that. Like, how come I have hyper and I'm still having this happen? Right.
And exactly. And that's because that balance between those two, genetically, it's going to determine which way they're going. Okay. So genetically, if you're going to Hashimoto's and you have hypothyroid, that's the gene expressions that the body's trying to correct to fix. And that's what creates that. Okay. And that's why we see different things go on in the thyroid. But what's so important is all of the hormones from that thyroid dictate and mediate all kinds of other functions in our body. Our as we're growing up, it's our growth, it's our metabolism, it's so many different things that's so important. And so that's why I say it has a very special relationship with oxidative stress, because it gets rid of it, but it also has the ability to make more of it, like purposefully. Okay, not just as you're aging does it start building, it actually makes it. And that's on purpose. And so that's why you see differences between some people where they'll have the hypothyroid, some people will have the hyperthyroid, when basically the same things are happening. Okay, so I like to get that out there, because the bottom line is we need to be able to manage that oxidative stress so that the two of them are balanced, so that the hormones are balanced, so that everything remains balanced chemistry.
Yeah. Another question that I get a lot too in our group is the doctor says my TSH and my T3 are in normal limits, but I feel like awful.
But are they testing T4 and T7?
Exactly. So most of the time they're not. So that's where it gets interesting, because you think.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's exactly right. And so exactly to your point, because that each of them based on genetics is determining which thing is dictating what's happening. So your T3 might be perfect, but the
Right.
T4 and T7 are going in a different direction. And that ultimately should be what's tested, not the thyroid stimulating hormone. That's a result of the two of them doing what they're doing. Okay.
Well, and you know, it was a shame when I got diagnosed early with my endocrinologist. I really wasn't getting anywhere with him because he was just telling me, well, your levels are normal. And I'm like, but you don't get it. I feel like crap. What is wrong? Again, it's so frustrating. It's like you're on this hamster wheel and you can't get off.
It's so true. It's so true.
You know,
And
it's just,
that's why, so you can imagine with the information I know and how those two systems work. So you have an NRF2 pathway, which is what reduces that down. We also have a KEAP1 pathway. Those two are supposed to be working conjunctively together, off and on and off and on. That's why when you're seeing those two things not where they should be, where you're going to get one way or the other, or the autoimmune issues that start happening because it's still making a disturbance in that hormone manufacturing. Okay. The thyroid makes its hormone, but it also has other roles. It also is a signaler. And that's what that KEAP system is. It's a signaler for other things to happen and dictate enzymes and lots of other chemistry that I don't want to go deep into. But the important part is why the thyroid is so unique is those two things. And that's why when I first heard about our NRF2 product, our Pro Tandem, and then I started seeing what they were doing. It's a NRF2 synergizer. That's important because there's actual medications today that are NRF2 medications. Okay. We are not an NRF2. We are an NRF2 synergizer. 5 plant types blended in tiny amounts to create something that turns on and off the pathway. And what we saw early on and what differentiates us so much from so many others and why this is so important in the thyroid is that our body has the biofeedback mechanism, just like, you know, we talked about with the thyroid, and this NRF2 combination turns that on and off. So it's not NRF2 blasting, which can be dangerous in some cases. It's it going on and off in a pulsatile fashion, which we have studies that show. And the reason is because it helps dictate that KEAP system, its counter system, and helps balance that. And that's why often if we have someone that has beginning stages, if they can figure out that that's what's going on is their thyroid has issues, if they early on can get on this, so often we're able to keep them from having to go on medication because it's what their body's looking for to help maintain that balance.
Got it.
Okay, now fast forward, often, unfortunately, many people have gone all the way down the road. They've gotten on medications. How many people have had their thyroid removed? Okay.
Right.
All that I can tell you is why I was so taken when I saw the science behind this product is I have never seen something that more or less mimicked what the thyroid does. And we can't ever say we treat, mitigate, prevent, or cure. But why is it that if you really go to people that know what they're doing, a lot of times with thyroid, they will work really hard and want you to stay more on a thyroid that's a desiccated thyroid from an animal versus getting on a synthetic thyroid like levothyroxine. And the reason is because there's parts we don't even know about, and they're striving to get back to that balance, that yin and the yang that's going on. And nothing demonstrates that more than our thyroid. And that's why I get so excited when I talk about our NRF2 activation, because we're activating the body to go do the things it's supposed to do again.
Yeah. Every time I hear you talk about it, it's fascinating. And it's a shame that, a traditional doctor, even the endocrinologist, they're treating us.
It is not their
not,
fault. This is what they're
no,
trained
it's
in.
not. No, it's not.
It is not. And I will be honest with you, when you have your function so low, you're going to need a medication.
Mhm.
It's got to be there. I don't tell people, and I can tell you that if you've had your thyroid removed, you're going to always have to have a thyroid medication.
Absolutely. This is not a place.
Yeah.
I was on levothyroxine for 23 years, 22 years, and my functional doctor switched me to Armor, which is the pig hormone, which mimics our body. And I really wasn't feeling like bad before, but I didn't want to be on a synthetic anymore. And I do feel like it's good. Like it's a good thing. And I don't, my mission is not to come off of Armor. And I just wanted to feel better, right? Like I just needed to get that inflammation down, and lo and behold, it's been fantastic. And trying to get this information out so people can start to feel better, because you start to get down to where you're like hopeless almost.
It's true. Absolutely.
And diet alone is you got to eat well and make great decisions and cut out the dairy and the gluten, red meat. But still, eating alone still, and I was doing that before and I still didn't feel good. So there's definitely a great balance between the little things that you can do. And this is almost just that cherry on top. That's like, okay, I need to give my body a chance to naturally. Yeah. And, people say, well, this isn't a supplement. And I try to explain that, when you supplement your body, you're only going to be able to absorb what you need to absorb. And then you're going to pee it out, right? Your body can only absorb so much. And with activation, it's not that. You're literally turning, we say, flip a switch to let those antioxidants run in your body again so that you can get your inflammation down. Because I knew nothing about this. And I'm so glad that, I found out.
Yes. And especially, when I'll be happy, like I said, to make sure that people take a look at the study that I'm referring to from 2020 that explains a little bit more scientifically about the yin and the yang, if you will, inside the thyroid and how it works. But when you once understand that, then you understand why iodine is used, and you understand why some people can't have iodine. And
right, people will ask that. How come some doctors say, some doctors don't, some people can, some people can't. So there's a gray area there for sure.
It's because, believe it or not, for the most part, what the iodine does is it upregulates the immune system to start up the fire again, which sounds crazy, right? That sounds like not something that should be happening. But when you have hypothyroid, it needs that extra spark and extra fire. But there are certain people that they'll have snippets, and that will absolutely, that one tiny part of what that reaction is, it's not turned back on again. I don't know what happens, but it just kind of, it's just not flipping the switch, because they have a snippet in their genes. And so that's just not going to happen. Okay. And so what ends up happening is we have some people need iodine, some people don't need iodine, and it becomes so confusing to people. One of the things I loved about that study, and I'll be glad to get that to people when we're finished, but it will be overwhelming for the average person for them to learn anything, but I would highly encourage you to take this to your doctor, because I think this is information from 2020. It's pretty current, as far as published. You have to understand, when studies happen, it takes a couple of years to get them published. And so the thing is, if we can help educate a lot of the doctors, then when you have in conjunction with it saying, this has been recommended to me, this is an NRF2 activator that's going to put this whole thing back in process again. I want you to know and see what I'm doing, so that as you see my progress, you'll understand that there's hope and that you can make a big difference with all of your patients. And so that's why I'm here. I want to be able to help each of you And in so doing, be able to help lots of other people, because when your medical practitioners see this, some will be interested, some won't. But even if we get a few here and there, every little bit matters. And so that was my main point for wanting to come on today, because there is nothing more near and dear to me than understanding what goes on in thyroid. And I understand it at a level that's kind of way out there compared to most medical people. And so I hope that this has been helpful for a lot of you. You're probably all going to have a lot of questions, but the bottom line is our body is capable if we can activate those pathways again. And you know what? Our foods are helpful and all those things you talked about, but today we have so much more stress that's being put on us by radiation and television and our phones, all these things. And yet the food sources we have, we don't rotate crops anymore and allow minerals to get back into our foods. They spray stuff on stuff. And so the stress level's way up here. And what we can do about it that used to fix it's way down here. We have to try to bring those two back to balance again. This is one of the tools that I've found to be the most extraordinary in helping us try to bring those two back to balance again. Okay. Oh, I can't hear you, Katrina. Hopefully I can hear you better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I had cut out and cut back in. And I know this is it, it's a lot of information to take in for sure. With regards to, the activation piece and all the science and stuff. But I know for me as a layperson, right? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a science, I'm not a formulator. I'm just a consumer of this. I pretty much was like, if this is going to help me feel better, then I need to do this, because I am like at no more options. I was kind of the lowest of the low personally. And like I said, I wasn't being who I needed to be for my family. And so moving forward, it's just a mission to try to help people understand what we know, and to also know that this isn't just makeup for autoimmune, right? NRF2 pathway. I have 4 kids. My oldest is engaged, getting married next year. All of my kids are activated. When I say activated, they take the NRF2 pill. They don't have any underlying issues, but they breathe the air and doing everything in our environment. Now everybody has oxidation. My husband, who is perfectly healthy, is activated. So it's not just someone who is, has an autoimmune condition. It's for everybody. And I want my kids to, I have 2 boys that play college basketball. The more you exercise, the more inflammation you have. So they double up during their seasons. So it's just, it's definitely something that everybody can benefit from. But for us that have the Hashi's diagnosis, it's just like I call it almost like a superpower, because it really allows us to feel better when we kind of lose a little bit of hope. So I am actually going to stop the.
Oh wait, just one more thing I want to add to
stop
this.
the recording really quick.
Okay, this is important. This is important.
Yeah.
I just want to mention this because a lot of people will ask this question. The first thing people will ask is, this going to interfere with my medication? Understand, I'm going to be the person the doctor is going to call for that question. Okay, I'm the person. They're going to call the pharmacist. They're going to call the pharmacologist. And what you need to know and understand, when you get on medications, when you get on our products, especially NRF2 activation, as your body starts to improve because it's starting to activate again, one of the things you need to know and be aware of is, as that trash is being removed, it may make you feel not as great as you'd like to for the day. It's not that making you sick, but it could be some of the toxins now releasing. And B, when you are taking other medications, this is something the doctors are not used to seeing. As your body starts getting better, sometimes you need less medication. And so it's not interfering with the medication, but as your body is improving, what you may see is you need a dosage reduction. So you do need to be aware, you do need to have things followed up with in terms of watching your levels, not because there's an interaction, but because as the body is improving and activating and working better, you may see that the dosages need to start being reduced. So I just wanted to add that in there.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that happened to me. I actually had, I did like a small, it was almost like a tiny little detox. I had a headache and I was like, wow, something is actually happening. But I was actually excited because I'm like, something's going on, you know? And after being on the product for 3 months, I went back in and I told my doctor, I go, I might need, you know, because we know our bodies when we have like hypothyroid, we know when we're off and we know when we're sluggish. And I was kind of feeling like, gosh, I don't know, something might be off. And sure enough, he goes, your thyroid's kind of ticking again. And I'm like, what? And they reduced my medicine and went down. And I've actually been reduced a couple different times because, you know, I get my blood work done routinely through my functional doctor. And it was really interesting to me that it actually started to like, and I like my thyroid is the size of a raisin. Like it does not work. I'm getting nothing. And to know that I was able to reduce my medicine a little bit, I'm like, okay, that's a in the win box.
The other thing too is not only is your thyroid starting to have more activation, but all of your other organs, all of your muscles, all of those cells are getting better. And so the pull on your body, because remember the thyroid is the thing trying to keep all those other things in balance. So the pull on your thyroid from the other functioning aspects of your body is reducing as well.
Right.
And that's why it's so profound.
I think it's important for people to understand, you know, we have a whole division of doctors on our team, and that Dr. Joe McCord is the founder of this synergy. Back in like 1968, he found pseudoxide dismutase, SOD, and then it was his mission. He knew, oh my gosh, I can activate this pathway. And so it was a brick and mortar, and it was at GNC and Whole Foods and Rite Aid, and it sat on that little shelf, but people didn't know what it was. So it didn't blow off of the shelf, because I don't know about you, but if I walk into a GNC, nothing against 23-year-olds, I have one, they are no help. And I think that nobody knew what this product did until it aired on ABC Primetime Investigative Reports on primetime television in 2005, and John Quixotes did the whole study. And that's when everybody was like, wait, what does this do? And this works. So just having that information and knowing that this is, you know, NSF certified, it's BCCG certified for the athletes. So there's no, it's all clean. PubMed.gov. I mean, we have 33 published studies on PubMed.gov. So I wasn't like, oh, I need to have all this information for science. I loved my friend. I trusted my friend. I knew her results. And I'm like, I'm in because I don't have another result, another option. So it is good though to know that all of that information is there and that we have it. And it's exciting. And for me, I needed to tell everybody that I knew, because if I didn't, I was doing a disservice. It's like holding a secret or holding that present under the tree and not letting anybody open it, personally. So Nancy, I'm going to come off of recording, and I'm just gonna, if it's okay, if anybody wants to ask a question in the chat or unmute, we have like, you know, a couple minutes, we can answer some questions. If